to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where we get together in the middle of the week, in the mornings for most of us, and spend some time talking tech things. Amazingly, it's already the last Wednesday of April. May is here next week, so maybe the May flowers will come out, and those who have not had spring, like all the people in region 6 of mine, it will finally come. We're here today to talk about taking better pictures with your smartphones and your tablets. We have two people who will be working with the presentation, and I'm happy to introduce them. Ray Bowser has been participating in Bob Bowser. I put the two together.
Making my money here.
Yeah, make your money here. Take two. Bob Bowser has been participating in computer clubs for about 40 years, starting after purchasing his first home computer. He worked in the computer field for about 30 years. He has used Android phones and tablets for the last 14 years. Bob is a member of the Senior Computer Users Group of Greater Kansas City Board of Directors, and he's on the Board of Directors. And he serves as the Program Director Pro Tem. And he is an APCUG Board of Directors and the Vice President of the Board of Directors.
Volume should be on.
Yeah. Ray Martinez is worked with computers most of his adult life. He purchased his first computer, if you can remember, the old IBM 8088 with dual 5 1/4 floppy drives. And the largest hard drive available back then was a whopping 5 megs. That was back in the early 80s. Things have changed then. Although he's still a PC user, he's learning from the Apple side. Ray is SEMCOM's, which is that same one, the senior, go back there, SEMCOM's iPad, iPhone SIG leader. So I'm going to turn things over to the iPad and the camera guys and let them do what they need to do.
And our newbie is Ray Martinez. Thank you for giving a presentation today. We really appreciate it. We've had Bob before.
Yeah. So whoever's going to start, whoever's going to start can start and take it over.
Right, go for it, Ray.
As we look at start talking about taking better pictures on your iPhone or on your smartphone, excuse me. And John mentioned it as well, because I thought I'd talk very briefly, because I have seen people, and I'm sure you have too, of seeing individuals taking pictures on their tablets. I've seen it many times, and it's kind of like, I often say to myself, wouldn't that be easier for you to do it on your phone? But then I stop and don't say anything. Of course, that's the dialogue that's going on in my head, but people do it. And I think it's just, it is one thing that every now and then, I see somebody do that. And usually every now and then I'll suggest, have you thought about maybe holding it like this or doing that? Maybe I'll give you a better picture. Instead of saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, because in the moment we take our pictures with what we have at hand. And I think that's very real for people, or it is for a lot of the folks that I've seen out there. But anyway, Bob, as we're going along, Bob and I are going to be talking about taking better pictures from the aspect of using your Apple device or using your Android device. So we are going to go, as we're going along here, move a little bit back and forth with one another. Judy, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. If I get to talking too fast, I don't mind just saying, Ray, slow down a little bit here. You're going a little too fast there, because unfortunately, I do talk a little fast sometimes. So, and I usually throw that out to people all the time. If I get to going too fast, slow me down. Doesn't bother me in the least bit.
I talk fast. I talk fast when I'm giving you a presentation. Please slow it down just a skosh.
There you go. That works for me. Anyway. Before we get started, I've been in the training business for a while, and I have a bad habit often as I start training to want to leave people with some initial, get their brain to work in here. And here's before we get started, what are the next 2 letters in the following sequence? Now, I don't want you to tell me, or maybe you can tell Judy if you're going along, and no cheating by going to Google. Okay, but what are the next 2 letters in the following sequence? And we will come to this, or we'll come back to this. But anyway, today we're going to talk about what do I need as far as taking better pictures. We're going to look at what are we doing with settings. Actually, we're kind of approaching talking about taking better pictures from minimum things as far as just kind of like beginning things, and then we're going to move on to talking about a little bit more advanced things as we move along. As I mentioned earlier, Bob and I are also going to take you to, and we have our devices set up so that we can kind of show you some examples as we're going along, as well as I have examples in the presentation as well. But anyway, talk about cleaning, framing your shots, using Zoom or not to use Zoom, that is the question. Whether it is no, or what, I'm sorry, that's another issue. We won't go there. Anyway, talking about using flash. Is flash always a good idea, or should I leave flash out? And then we're going to talk about some other camera functions that are out there. Anyway, let's get moving here. What do I need? You know, one of the things that I always point out to folks, and I think it's you don't need a lot. One of the things that you look at with as phones have progressed over time, as smartphones have progressed over time, you find that the cameras in our smartphones are getting better and better. Also, what are getting better and better are the settings that are out there for the cameras in our smartphones. You know, one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of smartphone cameras is that for the most part, the general user, usually the basic functions that are in your smartphone will probably do you well. You probably have no problem, no issue with your device as is. Also, when you look at it from you know, what is it that I need? Do I need to get some special lenses? Because you can go out there and purchase special lenses. You can go out there and get different tripods, different lighting situations. You know, if you're into that, then I say go for it. If you're not, if that's not something that you think you need, then don't do it. Don't do it, because your basic camera probably will provide you all the functionality that you need for the average photographer. And I say that because you see it all the time for people that are taking pictures. Usually, most folks don't have the different add-ons. Probably, you know, you see people with the selfie sticks. You see people with small tripods. You know, those things might, you know, that might help you out a little bit, but.
Okay, Bob, you got to dance. He just lost his internet connection.
Okay. Well, let me, I told everybody I actually have the presentation up that I can run it from here. I get where we were.
Ray, if you're still there, evidently you're sharing or something has stopped.
No reaction. I'm feeling you're right. Okay, let's see. And I'm not sharing it yet, am I?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, let me get the share going first.
You see on the Zoom toolbar, the bright green button?
Yeah, I'm good. It just was finding the right thing to share. Everybody see it now?
Yes, except we can see both things, so you'll need to go up to the middle display settings. Perfect. Click. Nope.
Oh,
Up.
Figure did the wrong one.
That good to go.
Oh, we got it now?
Perfect.
Okay. Ray, are you back with us? Saw his face for a minute.
He's back. I think he's back, although in participants list, his name is never gone. It's always been here.
I think it's just his iPad, but he's back. Because he's sharing now.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to get out of sharing. Maybe
No,
I am.
he's in sharing.
Oh, okay. We got his up. Got it. Ray?
Ray, can you give a sound check to see if your mic's working? Because I have it that you are.
It's like he's not hearing us, John. Best laid plans of mice and men. Something's got to go wrong.
These workshops are warts and all. It happens to us at meetings too.
He's trying to connect to audio. Yeah.
No microphone.
Bob, do you guys have Spectrum by chance?
No, I believe he's with me and on Google Fiber here.
Oh, okay, because my Spectrum was down this morning for a few.
Well, we've had pretty good luck with Google Fiber
Cool.
in the Kansas City area.
So what is Google Fiber?
It's a gigabyte service. Actually, they have 2 gigabyte service if you want to pay for it, and 500 if you don't want to pay the higher price.
What's the cost?
$70 for the gigabyte, 70 a month.
Huh. Because the internet is the most expense for me with Spectrum. Interesting.
How much is Spectrum?
I'm going to look it up because it makes me cry every time I do.
Oh, okay. Well, we
But
won't go there.
I think
You don't have to.
it's 70 or above. I know Bill has cut the cord in his place, and his bill actually went down, and then he's added a whole bunch of stuff. He has 400 download speed, which I envy. Plus his upload speed is way cool, but he also pays big bucks for it.
Are you back, Ray?
Okay, I think so.
Yep, you're back. Good.
I had to get completely out and then come back in again.
Once in a while, that's what you have to do.
So I don't know where you heard me leave off.
We talked about the tripods and boom sticks, or the selfie sticks.
Right. Oh man, that's a way back. Whew. I was just talking, and evidently nobody was hearing me.
Nobody was listening.
Oh, ouch. Well, let me go to where I was. Well, and I guess, let me see if I can get the train to back up here a little bit. Actually, where I noticed that I had lost everybody, I was talking about settings, and I was getting ready to go to my camera, but let me back up a little bit. So I'm assuming nobody heard me talk about how it's a good idea to practice taking pictures.
No.
Nope. Okay, good. Well, it is a good idea to practice taking pictures because I think one of the things that I find on my iPhone and my iPad is that sometimes when I don't use a function and I pull that function back out again to use it, I get to that, what did I do the last time to make this work situation? And I don't know if anybody else has that as an issue, but unfortunately I do. But you know, one of the things that I say to people often is that the basic functions in your phone camera will work just fine for the average person. You know, there's not a whole lot that you need to go out there and get for yourself to use your camera in your smart device. You know, look at the settings, you know, practice taking pictures, look at the settings that are there. Let me see if I can go to my settings. There we go. Here's my phone. Can you see my phone?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. But if you go to settings, well, you can see my phone, but my phone isn't doing anything. Come on, phone, or come on, connection. I seem to be having a connection issue. Well, let me get out of my phone and go back to where I was, and I'll just stay here. And I'll talk about settings. Go to your settings on your Android device or your Apple device, and go down and find camera and look at the apps that are there. Or look at the settings, excuse me, that are there for that particular app portion of your device. Let me stop here. So, you know, one thing that I always say to people, if you have the high dynamic range or HDR, make sure that it's on. You know, the high dynamic range or the HDR setting on your camera is a good function to make sure that you have on for normal pictures that you take. And note I said normal pictures that you take. The HDR function takes a good range as far as for contrast, for color, for background, things of that nature, and it's good to have on. Now, if you're out, let's say, taking pictures of the grandkids playing soccer, it's still going to be fine, but you may want to turn that off because the HDR is not particularly good at capturing contrast and things of that nature of things that are moving quickly. And it's not to say that your children are moving that quickly, but you know, sometimes as we're moving the camera around, you know, you might lose something. But again, generally speaking, you might not notice the difference. And I say that because I didn't notice the difference with it on or with it off. And now I'll also admit, I don't take the best pictures in the world. Usually that person is my wife. She takes great pictures. But again, look at your settings that are there as to what you have on. Now, one of the settings that is there that you may, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but seeing that we are talking about settings right now, is grid lines. Do you have your grid lines on, or the grid on? And that's a good function to have on in your camera app because, and we'll talk about this later, because it helps you frame your shot a whole lot better. So again, take some time. If you change nothing in your settings, at least look at them. You know, that's one of the things that I always say to people. If you change nothing at all, at least have an idea of where are my camera settings at? What are some of the things that are there? So this way, you know, at least go and look at, because often people say to me, well, I feel uncomfortable about going to settings and changing anything. Well, just go to settings and look. You don't necessarily have to change anything at all unless you want to. You know, one of the things that, you know, I often say to people is that taking pictures and how you have things set up a lot of times tends to be a matter of personal preference. Anyway, am I still on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Just checking. Anyway, some other basic things that are there. If you're like me and you put your camera in your pocket, you know, I don't know about what you keep in your pockets, but mine tend to be a little dusty. You know, make sure your camera lenses are clean before you get started out there. Try to make sure that you don't scratch up the lenses on your camera. on the back side of your device. Anyway, if you're going to clean it, make sure that you use a good quality cloth. Microfiber is good because again, you don't want to scratch it up. I don't know about you, but my phone is not waterproof. Okay, and I only mention that because if you're back there spraying it, that might not work out well for you. So, you know, again, be mindful of what you're doing with your camera lens and how it is that is there. If you're like me and you have a habit of putting your fingers in the back of your on the back of your device, then that means you're going to have fingerprints all over the backside of it. So, you know, as I often tell people, don't be like me. Anyway, framing your shot, and how are you setting your shot up to take your picture? I talked a little bit already about grid lines that are there. If you talk to any professional photographer about setting up shots, usually they're going to talk to you about the rule of thirds. And the rule of thirds is again a breakdown. Well, here, let me show you. Rule of thirds. Oop. Here's the rule, and we'll back up here in a second, but the rule of thirds is this, and again, high to low, side to side. How are you taking that picture, and how are you framing it? And again, how are you, and I think that's a good way to look at this. How are you framing that shot? And a lot of times how we frame a shot is dependent on, are we taking just a picture of someone, or are we taking a picture of someone somewhere? And I'll kind of back up to that here in a second. But again, how are you framing your shots, and how are you setting all that up? And again, more information about framing the shot and how you're setting it up. But again, it's kind of like often when we go places, we want a picture of us and whatever that place that we're at, we want a picture of that behind us. So, you know, again, how are you setting that up? Grid lines allows you to do a couple things. Number one, you know, set up where you're placing the shot, and also, you know, where are you placing the subject of the person that you're taking the shot of? Let's see here. Let me give you some more examples here. I like this picture because I think this picture is a good example of several things that are going on in the picture. And again, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sure. Yes, Ray.
Okay, good. Thank you. But anyway, like I said, this picture shows several different things that are going on in this shot. Number one, you've got the naturally frocked trees that are there, the one in the foreground, and then all the ones in the background. You've got the sun shining that's starting to come through the clouds. You've got the mountains. You've got the snow on the ground. Again, the person who set up this shot set it up so there's lots of different things in this picture. A lot of times when we're taking pictures of people, usually we're not that concerned about it. We just want to make sure that everybody's in the shot. Let me, and again, we're trying to make sure that everybody is in the shot. Okay. Bob, I think I'm going to have, Bob, can you bring up your camera?
We can only share one at a time.
Oh, go ahead, take it over.
Okay. Well, not successful yet, huh?
Well, I let go of the screen.
Yeah, it says that Bob's trying to share.
Says I'm trying to share and
That's okay.
Okay, here we go. Maybe.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay, good. What do you want to see, Ray?
Well, first of all, let's go to settings, Bob.
Camera settings or?
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, my phone is, there we go. We have settings on the phone are This little gear.
Right there. Right. Let's see. QR code, scroll down. Yeah. And okay, so Bob, you have grid lines off.
I do.
Now, is that by design?
I have left them off. So I guess it's by design.
Well, and again, I only ask that question because one of the things that I like about grid lines for me is that it also allows me to square up a shot.
I can turn them on. And let's see if we can get back to the camera.
There we go. Oh, actually, that's a good picture there, Bob.
Yeah.
I like your printer scanner.
Thank you. My old one died a week ago.
Anyway, I mean, this is a good example of a lot of times we take pictures like this, or maybe we're taking a picture of someone, and again, where we want that person to be might be dependent on what else we want to show in the picture.
Just gonna tell him.
Playing Sudoku today. But anyway,
part of my day.
but anyway, and again, right now, Bob, you're holding the camera pretty straight, and I only say that because just based on the grid lines.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm
not always this good.
Well, and a lot of us aren't, because and the grid lines help us square things up and keep things square to where they're even. Now granted, sometimes it doesn't matter. Depending on what we're taking a picture of, because maybe we're going to edit that picture a little bit later. But that is one of the things that I like about the grid lines, is it helps you square things up and keep things kind of even. But again, and I like what Bob is showing there as far as on my Android device, where do I find my settings? And it's right there. Now, it's interesting because on Apple devices, you won't find a setting button in your camera area. You actually have to go to settings, go to camera, and then you'll find your settings there. So there is some difference there between the Apple device and the Android device.
There is. And there's another thing that I was experiencing. I started checking for some of the items we were going to talk about today, and found that there's no search inside my settings for my camera. So I can't just go look something up. But I went to my regular settings for my device, and I could search there, and it brought up the camera settings for me that I was looking for. So that's just a little something that happened to me, and I wanted to tell everybody today about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, because, well, it's interesting you said that, because, having to go into search, because sometimes, as we're trying to help folks out, and maybe they're not in front of us, and we're talking to them either on a phone or maybe on a virtual call, and we're trying to talk them through information, and they can't find it.
Been there.
And they don't realize, well, I have a search feature in my settings area that will allow me to search for what I'm looking for. And most of us know that, but some of us forget. Okay, I don't actually, that really looked really good, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, you want to take back the share?
Sure. Let's give this a keep trying this.
I don't have anything exciting to look at in my room here. Take a picture of my camera. My printer is the best thing I've got.
Well, I will not comment. Okay.
Please don't. Let's see. I think you just have to take sharing back, because I don't see where I can. Oh, here it is. Never mind.
No problem. All right, you let it go. Let me give this a shot. Okay. Now, here's another picture of the grid lines that are on. And this picture is a little difficult to see because you can't, one of them, the grid lines are very visible and the other is not. But again, two different pictures that are there. And again, with the grid lines on. And the one on the right, I like because again, it's one of those times that you're gonna want that valley right there in the middle, and you're using those grid lines. But again, it depends on the shot that you're taking and the setup for your shot. And that's really the key that is there that you're looking at, is the setup that you're going to step through for taking your pictures. You know, and again, this is one of those times that for me, I don't know about anybody else, but I'll just talk about myself. But for me, I would just most likely take multiple pictures of the same thing, and then later pick and choose which one I'm going to keep and which one I'm going to trash. But I think people do that, generally speaking, all the time. You know, they'll take multiple pictures and then which one was the best, and then decide, you know, which one they're going to trash. Another good example here, again, grid lines on based on, again, what it is that you're taking. And one of the things that, and Bob, help me out here because I forgot, on an Apple device, if you're taking a picture, you have the opportunity to touch the screen and tell the camera what you want to be, what you want it to center, to focus on, and it will do that. Now, the Android, does that have that same functionality?
I'm just testing that. I'm not really seeing it happen.
Okay, all right. But again, it is you know, a function that is there and that's available to you. But again, based on you know, what works for you. But again, if you weren't practicing taking those shots, then you might not know. Well, wait a minute, time out. I can tap the screen and let my camera know that this is what I want it to focus in on more than anything else. And you have that functionality that is there. The other thing that is there, and this is really kind of more of an advanced feature that some people don't know, because I know that on Android, if you touch the screen, you can adjust the light because there's a slider on the bottom of the little box that pops up. Correct, Bob?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Sure.
That allows you to adjust the light. And on the Apple device, if you touch the screen, the slider is on the side of that little box that pops up. And again, this kind of gets, again, and I'm going to keep repeating myself over and over again, and I know that, and I'm doing it on purpose. But this is one of those times that I'd say this is a function where you need to go in and practice how you can go in and tap the screen and adjust what you're doing there as far as with light. So, and again, but it is one of those things that takes practice. And I'm going to qualify that. It took me a lot of practice to figure out, okay, how does that work? And what do I need to do if I move my finger? And that took me a while to figure that out and to catch on and using it, because I don't know if maybe I'll just put my finger wrong on the screen, or if I wasn't doing something right, clearly. But again, it's just some functionality that is there. Another thing that is there that we always need to talk about is Zoom, and using Zoom on your device. I mean, because all you have to do is put your fingers on the screen and either pinch up or pinch out, and you're zooming in and zooming out. And it's great. It works out really great. The problem with using too much Zoom is that sometimes your pictures might get a little grainy, and you might not get everything that is there. You know, instead of zooming, if you can you move a little closer if you need to zoom in? You know, unless you're dealing with you know, a wild animal, usually you can step in a little bit. But again, it's just be advised that sometimes Zoom is not your friend. Okay, it is just really one of those things that, you know, you might not get a good clear picture, might not be as sharp as you want it to be if you're using too much Zoom. Also, you know, as we look at Zoom, do I need to put my camera down? Because I don't know about you, but I'll just talk about myself here. My hands are not as steady as they used to be. Okay, and so sometimes if there is some vibration, especially if it's a shot that is there, you know, maybe this is that time that you do use if you've got a small tripod, you use something like that. Or things that I have done before is that I've perched my phone on something else, maybe a rock ledge, or maybe just perched it on something, because, and I think people know this, you do know that you have the ability to have a countdown in your phone that allows you to set it up and hit the button, then step away, and it'll beep down and then take the picture after, because I think usually I use the 3 second, but I think it's 3, 5, and 10, I think, on my phone. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head here, but there is a countdown function, and maybe you can set it down. Then that might work. But again, you know, it's one of the things that I always say to people about Zoom is that, you know, look at it is there, practice your shot. If you have the ability to practice zooming in and zooming out based on what you're taking a picture of, because sometimes we do. You know, if we're out and about and we're taking pictures and we're using that zoom function, but again, recognize that I may not get the clear or as clear a picture as I want if I use too much zoom. Now, as you're taking pictures, sometimes do you notice that you have reflections in the screen? And sometimes that happens. And here's a picture where the picture on the right, I don't know if you can see the reflection of the plant in the screen that is there. The simplest thing that you can do for reflections is to back up. And I know that sounds a little too simplistic, but backing up for that in this particular picture took the reflection away. And this is a picture and I think this is a picture taken in Vegas, in Las Vegas. But anyway, you're in a building and you see something out there on the strip, and you take your picture, and then you notice there's some reflection. If you just back up just a little bit, you don't have to back up a whole lot. A lot of times that reflection is going to be gone. A lot of times, or maybe you just need to move your angle a little bit based on where you're taking that picture. Again, just some things to think about. And again, now, next thing that we look at and talk about is flash, and when to use flash, when not to use flash. All of us have the capability in our smart device of turning on the flash and turning off the flash. And I've seen people inadvertently have the flash feature, but more often than not, with a lot of our phones right now, or a lot of our devices, unless it's a really dark room, you don't really need to use your flash. Of course, maybe if it's a dark room, you're trying to get that effect, you want to make sure that the flash is off. But again, can you use the natural light? Now, I was talking earlier about touching the screen and having that floating device that is there that allows you to adjust for light. And you can do that. And that's one thing to do. How are you taking your pictures? How are you setting up taking your pictures, especially if you're outside? Are you taking a picture where you're facing the sun? If you are, then maybe you need to move the subject so that they have the sun to their face and that sun is to your back. And again, it's you know, how are you? What's the setup that you have that is there that you're as you're preparing to take this shot? Because, like I said, sometimes you want flash, sometimes you don't. It just depends on the nature of what is there. Here's an example of a picture where no flash, and then an adjustment of the camera itself of this young gal. But again, it just depends. I'm assuming, Bob, I see you moving, so you can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I guess I'm just used to seeing somebody and seeing some feedback. I do apologize. Here's another picture. You can see
me, Ray.
There you go. Here's another picture of my wife and I, and there was no flash that was used for this picture. We just used the ambient light, and as you can see, unfortunately, I probably needed to have some makeup on my forehead there, but that's a side issue. We won't go there. but got a little glary there. But and again, and this was taken outside. There are a bunch of lights again all around us. This was taken, I want to say, at Christmas time. But again, you know, because the person that, and actually, I didn't take this picture. Somebody took it using my phone and said, you know, hey, do you want me to take that picture for you? I said, sure. And I said to them, make sure the flash is off. And they took that picture. And again, I thought that would turned out well. But again, it is really one of those things. And I come back to this one because the adjustments were made with the camera on this picture of this young woman. And I think especially with the soft light on the far right there, I think that turned out really well for her as far as just kind of get into different aspects. And personally, I like that picture out of all of those pictures. But again, that's my personal preference that is there. But again, how are you using your flash? Are there going to be those times that you don't want to use flash? And you really, and again, it gets back to that thing again about practicing what you're doing with your shots. Now, all of our phones also have lots of other functions that are there that are available to them. One of the functions that I don't do very well at, and that's the burst function that allows you to take several pictures very, very quickly. The thing that I like about the burst function when I do it, and like I said, sometimes I don't do it very well because it is one of those functions that I need to practice a lot at, but it allows you to pick and choose. And let me go to, here's some examples of the burst function. The top picture was taken, again, using the burst function of this person pitching. Same thing down below, the burst function. And again, this person was moving, I'm not going to say very quickly, but making a lot of faces. And she thought she was being cute, but that's a side issue. But again, the burst function also allows you to go back and look at your pictures and pick and choose the ones that you like. But again, as I said earlier about using the burst function, is that it takes practice. I don't operate it very well, but again, it is one of those things that is there, allows you to choose. It's a handy function, especially if you're taking pictures of small kids, because you know they blink, they move, they do things. Also pictures of wildlife. This might be a time that you use that burst function. And for the most part, and Bob helped me out here on an Android, the burst function for that, normally on the Apple phone, you just put your finger on the button and hold it there for a moment, and it will take a burst shot.
Yes, that works on my Android. Also
Okay.
on my Android, if I kind of flick the shutter button, I'll get a 4-shot burst.
Oh, okay, cool.
Just built into it's an S21, and it's just built into it.
Okay, cool. Now, I'm assuming based on what you're saying that works pretty good for you as far as you have no issue with that.
I've been practicing a little bit, as you've said many times already this morning. Practice, practice, practice.
Well, yeah, it's and maybe it's just me, but like it is one of those functions that I've tried to use, and I have not been completely, or I've not been as successful as I'd like to be. Let me put it that way.
You know, my S8 that I had before I had a setting that I could pick burst as being the default, and it seems to me like it was a 6-picture burst, but I'm not certain.
Okay.
But there were times that I would just turn that on and leave it on, and it was beneficial.
Okay. All right. That functionality, I've not seen it in an Apple device at all. So, and I don't know if the newer cameras or the newer phones have that functionality. And I'm gonna stop right there for a second, because that reminded me of something I didn't say earlier, or maybe I did say it, and it's that time when I dropped out. But the older your device, some of the functionality is going to be a little less than some of the functionality in the newer phones. I don't know what that is. Also, the lenses are going to be better in the newer phones than some of the older devices. So it is one of those things that, you know, I've talked to folks before, and let's say maybe we're looking in settings, and I'm in one area, and I'm looking at the setting information right in front of me, and they're in that same area, but they don't have the same functionality, only because it's an older device. And point being is that in older devices, sometimes we might have the same thing, but we may have to go find that information somewhere else within our setting area. But anyway, going on, like I said, functionality that you have to practice. Another function that is there is the panoramic shot. And I don't know if any of you have ever used it, the panoramic capability in your smartphone. I've used it a couple of times. It works really well. I've used it primarily if I'm in an area where there's just a lot to be seen and a lot to deal with. I find that taking that panoramic shot to be very easy to do. But it is one of those things that you need to be careful doing, because you don't always need a panoramic shot. And I'm assuming, Bob, that the Android has the same functionality as far as panoramic shot?
It does indeed, either vertical or horizontal.
Ah, okay. All right. You have to excuse me, I was getting ready to ask something. Other things that are there, you can ask your device to take a picture for you, depending on what device you have. I talked about the countdown function that is there. I use that countdown function quite a bit, especially if I'm taking a selfie, or if maybe I'm taking a picture of my wife and I, and we're trying to set something out. I will use that countdown feature. I really, really like it. It serves well, especially if you're trying to be in a shot where there's a bunch of other people. I think that works really, really well. And again, it's just that is there. On your device, will other buttons act as a shutter release? The volume up button on my phone will do also a shutter release. And I say that's kind of neat based on how you're holding your smartphone, because sometimes it's hard to hold the phone and also hit that shutter release button on the screen. So maybe I can hit the volume up button, and that's easier to hit. So, and again, and I think all devices have that capability. As far as, another button acts as that shutter release. And we talked a little bit earlier about the high dynamic range. And Bob, help me out here. Did anybody hear me talking about high dynamic range, HDR?
I don't believe we did hear it. So if you want to talk a little bit about it, that'd be great.
I would like to talk a little bit about HDR. The high dynamic range is a function that is in your settings. And generally speaking, for normal picture taking, you probably want that on. Okay, because it helps in contrast, it helps with color, it helps with background things. It's a good function to have on. And like I said, in your normal everyday pictures, actually I have mine on, and I've never turned it off. Now I've read, and I have personally not found this to be the case, but again, this is my opinion, and I don't take a lot of pictures, but there's my disclaimer. But the high dynamic range it's said that if you're taking something that's moving really fast, that it might not serve you as well. So if you're out at NASCAR, we have NASCAR here in the Kansas City area. You're out there at NASCAR and you're watching the races. I don't know if you're going to get a good shot with the high dynamic range on. Your general day-to-day things, it'll probably serve you very well. But it is a function, again, it is in settings. On your Android device, you're going to have to go to settings, camera, and you will see the high dynamic range, and it will talk to you very briefly. There's a little bit of information there in that screen that talks to you about high dynamic range, and that's what HDR stands for. And in your Android device, as Bob showed us, if you open up your camera device, you've got the little wheel there to look at settings. You'll have to scroll down, and it's right there as well. So, but again, I like that. Anything that helps me take a better picture, I'm going to have it on. I'll just leave it at that. Other things that are there. Can I edit the pictures that I take with my current photo app? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. And I did not know this. Let me go. Here's a picture that I took of myself. I think it was late last week. The picture on the left there is the picture, the original picture I took without flash. The picture on the right, and again, it's the same picture, I just edited it. And again, it allowed me to adjust the light, allowed me to adjust the sharpness in this. But again, it's you know, maybe if I had a better subject that I took the picture of, it might look a little bit better. But I thought the picture is, the editing tools that I have allowed me to, you know, make the picture look a little bit better. And I say the editing tools that I have. Have I tried other photo editors out there? Yes, I have. Did I necessarily need to? No, but I did try them. But I think the average person will do well with the editing tools that they have already built into their smart device. It's just taking the time to go out there and do this. Now, one of the things that I always suggest to people is that make a copy of the pictures you're going to take, that you're going to try to edit, and work on the copy that you, and leave the original, leave the original alone. So this way you're just working on that copy. So this way, if you mess it up and you decide, oh, none of that's going to work, I'll just delete it and start all over, you have that ability to start all over again. So, but again, like I said, the editing functions allow you to adjust the color, allow you to adjust the light, allow you to adjust contrast. You know, again, you have the tools available to you if you want to use the tools that are there. Whoops, excuse me. And again, I'm going to stop here. Bob, I'm sure I've forgotten something.
Oh, I think, you know, we basically wanted to get through the items that you've talked about, and the fact that the editing and all. And
all right. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about editing because, and again, this is one of those functionalities that is there, that's built into our device, that you need to practice doing if you're going to do it at all. I think most people wouldn't go in and try to edit their pictures. They would probably just trash them, start all over again. I know I've done that many a time. But again, it is there, you know. But you know, as it says here, we're going to finish the way that we started here, and again, talking about to take great pictures, you don't need a whole lot of add-ons. Yeah, I mentioned earlier maybe a small tripod. I have a selfie stick that also turns into a small tripod that I've used before, and that's the extent of all the add-ons that I have for taking pictures. I don't use anything else beyond that. Only because I don't feel that I need to. Take some time to learn about what your camera can and can't do. Practice. Say it over and over and over and over and over again, and I'll say it even more and more and more. And that is, you know, you got to practice. You know, I say that to people all the time as far as with their device. You got to poke around at things, you know, try different things and see how they work. You know, I think the basic functionality for the average person, our average smartphone, smart tablet user, is going to work for them just fine. Okay, you know, take some time, look at your settings that are there, be familiar with the layout that you have of your camera as far as what are the capabilities that are there. You'd be surprised. And I was, especially from a lighting standpoint, about how just touching the screen and adjusting how much light I want to take in a shot really improves my camera taking and really helped me out. Editing, I thought was very, I liked it a lot. And again, you know, I think it can make a good picture into an even better picture. Again, that's just a personal belief of mine. Judy, before I do anything else, were there any questions that anybody jumped out and said, well, what about this or what about that?
No, but I have some interesting comments for when we
Please.
do open mic.
Okay, well, I just have one last thing, and that's to finish as we started. Oop, not that way. There we go.
Oh,
The next two letters in the sequence. And of course. I know Bob knows the answer to this, but the sequence is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Funny.
First
I'm
time
going
Ray
to-
used that, I started speaking and he didn't want me to.
I'm going to stop sharing here. Hopefully.
You've stopped.
Okay.
Now, as always in open, turn myself back on, in open conversations and things, if you have something you would want to share or ask to have demonstrated, they can both get back on their devices and show you something, whatever, or use the raise hand in the reactions so that you go to the top of our list and Judy can see you rather than raise your hand, because there's a whole bunch of screens of people. And if you don't have your camera on, we won't see you. So make sure you use that, and then we can call on you and we can ask questions and share information. So Judy, you had a few comments that you wanted to make first.
a question. How do I view the burst photos on my iPhone? I only see one in photos, though the screen says there are 8 available to view.
Okay. Normally, hold on for a second. I was trying to do some other things here. Normally, what you're going to have to do with that is, there we are. What you're going to have to do is it will allow you to touch the picture that you want to open. But once it's open, it holds your finger to the screen and just move to the left or move the left or right, and you should see those pictures. It's going to take some practice. Let me stop right there. That's going to take some practice as far as being able to do that, but you should be able to put your finger on the screen and just kind of float to, most likely probably going to be going left to right.
Okay, this is an Android question. Does HDR work with still pictures or just video?
That's a good question. It is the settings on my phone say auto HDR, which to me means it will take effect if it's helpful. But from what I'm not an expert in this, but I believe that a picture, an HDR will help any kind of picture, whether it's a simple picture or a video.
Right. You're absolutely right, Bob.
Does it work with video?
As far as I know, yes.
I believe it does.
Yes.
Okay. How about the same questions for an iPhone?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Let me see. This is from a Android user, and she said she likes the function that takes a picture when you say smile or cheese, especially when I am traveling in a tour group and using my cane. So is that for, well, she uses an Android. Do you have the same kind of function? I guess your phone understands what you're saying or whatever.
Judy, let me mention on the Android, you have a setting that you can choose what word you want to be the key.
Right.
So I'm assuming
Right.
that's the same on an iPhone, but Ray's going to have to answer that.
Who knew?
I don't believe that it is, Bob. I've not seen that functionality on my iPhone.
I found
Now-
that setting. I've not tried it, but it sounds like it works.
But now I can ask Siri to take a picture.
And I can ask Google to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, from that standpoint, I can ask Siri to take a picture, and she will. But I'm not aware that there's a functionality in the Apple that says when you say cheese or whatever word you set up it to be, that it will do that for you.
Another comment question. I've got an adapter to hold my phone to mount on a tripod. Helps to hold the camera steady, but would like to have a remote shutter. How does that happen?
Well, we just told one way, and that's to speak to it.
Yes, you can speak to it. There's the countdown function, most likely that they've got. Now, I'm assuming that the tripod that they have, let me put it this way. My tripod selfie stick has a little device that came with it that allows me to push a button and it will take a picture. It is a remote control. But again, that's an add-on that I had purchased. It's not built in. The built-in functions are the countdown and asking it to take a picture.
JJ says the smile function is available on the iPhone from the Play Store.
Aha.
Okay.
Excellent.
What does the save option mean, raw or as previewed? And again, that is from an Android user.
I'm not real good at that area, to be honest. The raw I know contains more data. The as previewed is probably more of a JPEG type thing where it's taking advantage of the nearby pixels, if you will, and reducing the size of the file. Ray, maybe you have a lot better answer than I do on that.
Actually, no, Bob. I think you're kind of hitting it right there.
What raw means?
If somebody's,
Yeah,
go for it, please.
Go for it.
Raw is similar to the olden cameras with a film that goes through it. When you get a film, it hasn't been processed. Well, that is what raw is. Raw is before the image has been processed. The advantage of shooting in raw is that you can actually make your own high dynamic range by exposing the thing in a low and a high and combining them together.
Okay, thank you.
You can do a lot of things with raw that you can't do with a processed one.
Excellent.
And the photos are huge.
The size, the file size.
Yes. Yep.
Yep. Back in the day, you know, if you had Google Photos Unlimited, you could upload raw photos. But now with only 15 gig storage, there's Steve Parker, of course, has something that takes care of that.
Right.
Yeah, if you can see the image I've got up there now, that's a remote for the phone in the camera, or the camera in the phone, sorry.
Oh.
Okay.
What are motion photos?
They're photos that you can take, that you set up, and 3 seconds of it before and after, it will actually include that in the picture. And then when you hold your finger on the photo, you'll actually see the video of it. Somehow it actually manages to capture the video of you before you take the picture. I haven't quite figured that one out yet, but it does.
Sounds
So
remarkable.
if you took a picture and somebody has their eyes closed, you can actually examine all the frames in that 3 seconds and pick the one that you want.
Right.
Similar to a burst mode.
And you can do it in iPhone and in Android as well.
Right.
Both have that.
I find it interesting to learn about the burst mode because I just figured I was holding my finger down too long and took a gazillion pictures. Hey, you want to talk about not knowing, all right? That would be me when it comes to this. And I do have to share that I have a Gorilla tripod, and it's about, you know, this big, and it's got, oh, thank you, Joanne, keep nodding. And it's got wiggly legs, and you can take it and you can wrap around a tree limb or sit it on top of a fence and pop your phone there, or, you know, any number of places. And it's just really fantastic. Gorilla is the pay more name brand, but there's, you know, dupes out there like crazy. But when I would teach digital photos, teachers can teach you anything, whether they can do it or not. And my adult ed, I recommended that everybody get one of those for sure. And I brought mine in and let them play with it and try it and all that good kind of stuff. When is slow motion used?
I've not had experience myself as far as taking a slow motion video. Is it just picking up various frames? I really don't know. Ray, do you know?
Well, I think it's like anything else. I mean, if you're doing something, whether you're maybe watching your grandkids play soccer and you use that slow-mo function, it's going to take a picture to where it looks like they're now moving in slow motion, and it's a video. Now, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a function of when I might use that, and I can't. But I mean, I say that because I don't necessarily want to see my grandkids in slow motion, unless I see something that's going to happen real fast. Maybe if I took a slow mo, then I could slow it down of something. I don't know. Maybe I should Google it. Go ahead.
Ray, can I share something? I can
Please.
tell you that I've used slow-mo numerous times with my grandsons when they were interested in like on a skateboard, if they're jumping over a ramp or that sort of stuff, and they want to see the slow-mo of what they're doing. Just kind of fun.
Or maybe somebody wants to look at and check their mechanics of how am I hitting the ball? What am I doing? Where's my elbow going when I do this? It should be up, should it be in?
Yep, that was my next example of taking a picture of yourself or a movie of yourself trying to swing a golf club. Maybe you don't want to know the answer to that, but
is it more a playback than a actual taking of the video? Seems like a playback.
Yes. The video you take is a regular video, but when you press playback, you can select slow-mo or regular or normal speed, and it's adjustable. You can on my phone anyway, it's an Android. There's a slider. You can tell it what to play it back at.
Excellent, thank you.
Sure.
And Dave plays golf every Friday afternoon.
Yes.
A comment: slow motion is great for watching kids skateboarding. And I don't know if that's what my son used, but I have a picture that he took years ago at the skate park in Santa Clarita, and this kid is at the top of the stairs going down into the walkway, and he took off and flew over everybody's head that was in there and landed. It's quite a spectacular photo. Someone has noticed that his grid lines have changed from not being equal anymore. Are those the gremlins in your phone that do things like that, like we have in our computers?
I would think so. I'm not aware that you can adjust your grid lines.
I haven't seen that at all.
Nope. Okay. And someone said, could you talk a little bit more about the panoramic shot? Because it seems to be very confusing and I've never been able to use it successfully.
Panoramic shot. Okay. Hold on. Actually, I opened my camera up. I put it in panoramic. Okay. So you launch your camera app. You pick Pano, and what you have, and it's going to come up and it's going to show you an arrow. Okay. And then what you have to do is hold the button and move based on what you want to take a picture of. So in other words, let's say that I'm going to start from left to right, and I'm going to hold the camera up. I'm going to come across, all the way across till I get, and then wherever it is I decide to let go at, it's going to take a picture of that, exactly what I held to.
Yeah, it seams them together, so it's just a continuous shot of what you did, and I can see Carl's doing it right now.
And I use it now. You know, a lot of times people say, "Well, when would you use something like that?" I was in a run a couple of years ago, and the run had not started yet, and I stood up on this ledge, and I went from my left all the way to my right of this street that was right in front of me, and took a picture of basically the crowd, and the picture turned out really well. Because you could see all the people in my immediate viewing area, which I thought was just kind of neat.
Oh, I've got two more here. Hold on. Ooh. I have another comment.
Okay.
About works great. Panoramic works great for a mountain range covered in snow or at Grand.
Oh yeah, there you go.
I can remember back in the day, you would take a bunch of pictures and then you would put them together with the panoramic function of your editing program. I did that. Randy took pictures of our town from a park, and he said, okay, Mom, here you are, you know, you're going to put the website together for your ethics committee, you know, put them all together. And I said, thanks much, kid. And I did, because that's what you did back in the day.
Right.
And it doesn't look any different than if you went panoramic and did it by the camera, and the lights are on and it looks really good. I am going to close the chat box, and you all can unmute yourselves with no problem. So please use the raise your hand function, and let's do some open mic. And before you ask your question, let us know if it's specific for Android or iPhone. Dale, who will be?
Yeah. I wanted to know about the telescopic mode on some phones, and also what mode would you use for taking like pictures of flowers or birds or bugs and stuff like that?
Ray, any experience there?
Well, actually, I take pictures of flowers and birds quite a bit. But usually I have found for me, just in standard mode of taking that picture of just, with flowers, it's great because you really have to get right up on them, or I like getting right up on them, getting the full color of, you know, the flowers, not only the petals, the stems, but just based on what it is that is there. Birds is another issue because often you can't get close enough to birds to get a really good picture of them. Sometimes you can. And I say sometimes because my wife has a feeder out close to our sunroom, and you can stand in the sunroom a lot of times and take good pictures of them. But in my phone, I don't have any special attachments for telephoto attachments for my phone at all. So if I do zoom, and I don't zoom very often, but if I do zoom, I do it sparingly. But if I do, I just use what's built into my smartphone.
I'd be the same way. I would use the zoom function, and on mine at least, I just search for telephoto, and there is no There just isn't any setting on mine.
Yeah, birds move fairly quickly, so
Oh, they do.
you speed up the shutter, or how do you do that?
Well, I don't speed up the shutter. I mean, it's just really one of those, and maybe most of my bird pictures are hit and miss. I say that because, you know, when I see them, I try to take them. No, well, hold on for a second. Let me see.
Maybe a burst shot. I don't know that.
Well, I think a burst shot would
Burst
probably
shot.
work best.
Yeah.
I mean, because you want to hold it up there and hold it while you can, because recognizing that bird's going to fly away any second.
I have a good comment I learned from a person telling a talk on a Zoom talk just a week ago. She said, do not walk closer quickly directly toward a bird. They'll think you're, you know, being aggressive. So
Yep.
meander sideways back and forth slowly, and don't go straight at them if you want to move a little closer. So that
There
was
you
a
go.
very good comment.
That sounds pretty good. Good advice.
And a comment on stitching photos. You can use image composite editor feature free from Microsoft to stitch photos. In actuality, I use the 2012 photo gallery from Live Essentials to stitch it together. And over to Grace.
Okay, you go to settings and you bring up camera, and they have a list of items there. If you slide it, if you open up preserve settings, there are different things that you should have on or not have on. The camera mode, creative controls, exposure adjustment. That I wondered if you could explain those on the iPhone.
Okay, which ones are you looking at?
Creative mode, creative controls, exposure adjustment.
Okay, I do not have those on my iPhone.
Okay, this is 11.
Oh, okay. Well, mine's not that much older than yours. Okay, because I've got stereo, but I don't have in my camera. I've got prioritize fast shooting, smart, high dynamic range, keep normal photo. But beyond that, I don't have the same things that you have.
Okay.
And so
Thank
as
you.
you get a new iPhone, you are getting more photos.
Functionality.
More
Yep.
functionality for sure.
Cool. Over to Carl.
Hi, excellent presentation. Now that Grace brought that up, I brought up my settings, and I have a year-old OnePlus phone, and I finally found out. I asked one of the question why the grid was different. Well, there's a setting called golden ratio. So I must have selected that, and that changes the perspective. You know, instead of 1/3, it's like, I don't know, 1/4, or so. It's something different. They're not all equal. There's the one in the middle is narrower for some reason. And then I have a lot of, go ahead.
I just gonna say, I'm a mathematician. I know about the golden ratio a little bit, but I can't remember exactly what those numbers are.
Well, apparently it's a photographic term too. Anyways, it has a lot of settings: histogram, horizontal reference line, high efficiency video,
Wow.
and mirrored self photo, one smart scene recognition, ultra shot HDR. It's a lot of things, but the thing that I wanted to comment on that is so unique with this newer technology is the fact that you could take a picture where someone takes it with a light in the background, you know, like through a window,
Right.
and it will correct for that and show that
Right.
picture normal. That blew me away.
Well, you know what's blown me away recently is have you seen the commercials for the Pixel phone? And they have a function in the newer phones that allow you to take unwanted subjects out of your pictures.
Well, this thing, basically, that was the function: take away the bright light in the background.
Right.
And and the persons who were dark, it was a couple that I took a picture of, and it absolutely made them not perfect, but usable. A picture you'd want.
Right.
instead of disposing of it, you could keep it. It was amazing.
Do you
That's neat.
Do you suppose when you got the skinnier thing in the middle, that's the phone saying, Carl, you know, it really works better this way, or you accidentally touched something?
Yeah.
No, I mean, just digitally you remove the bright light in the background so that then it was like it wasn't there.
Right.
And then you had the picture. People were dark. I mean, literally, you could not distinguish much of their facial at all. And by removing that dark halo, if you will, behind them, the picture popped out. That to me that's better than any dark room I used to use in the 60s.
That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
I have another question. Please comment on comparing burst versus video when with a pause on playback.
I think it really boils, if you're comfortable with that, I'm not one of those people that's comfortable with video. And again, that's just me. I think if you're comfortable with video, because to their point, they're saying, which one is better for me to use? Should I be bursting or should I be using video? Which one are you more comfortable using?
And Ray, I think the other piece of that is that when you're taking a burst, you're actually getting high quality shots in each of those shots. When you're taking video, 60 frames per second or whatever it is, 30, or you're not getting the full not picture, but it's not going to be quite as vivid, complete as a burst will be. Now, there's others out there that could probably correct me on that, but I believe that's the case. Dave, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I had a comment with that. Burst mode is a whole bunch of individual pictures. So you can, and they're full video or quality of the whatever picture setting you have set up. And you have to go through and select the one you like the best. Usually the ones in the center are probably the one you're going to want to pick, but there's probably 5 or 6 in the middle that are very, very similar. And it's hard to decide which one is the best one. In video mode, you're actually taking a movie and the file is not a JPEG, it's an MOV file. And that requires different software to edit it with. And to select a frame out of a movie, I think it's quite a bit more difficult than selecting an individual picture.
With an Android iPhone, you can have a burst of 10 per second. Android is up to 30 photos per second.
Yeah, so that gives you an idea how many,
Or
how hard it's going to be to choose.
right, or 30 per touch.
Okay.
Michael.
The grid lines changing might also be just changing the ratio from 4:3 to 16:9 might make the grid lines look different too. But the golden ratio sounds more important. The main thing I wanted to tell you, on the Android phone, I've discovered that while you are taking a video, if you continue clicking the button on the front or the volume controls, it will take photos at the same time you're taking a video or pull photos out of the video.
Wow.
So that's, you can have, if you keep doing that, you could have a bunch of burst photos at the same time you're taking the video, which is kind of neat.
Did I miss the type of phone you're talking about?
I'm using an Android.
Okay.
Motorola. I've had that 2 different models work that, but the Motorola's that I have don't have the burst mode at all. Or panoramic. The lower end Motorola phones apparently. So that's something. And you didn't mention anything. I've noticed my phone's mentioned the selfie mode when you're taking, you can do that for when you're talking to somebody too. Might be something to share. You guys know about that. I think basically that just in your, while you're looking at your phone, it puts a picture of what it's showing the other person at the same time. I assume that's what it is. The selfie mode on the cameras, on the phones.
Oh, during a phone call?
Right.
Oh, I've not experienced it. Ray, are you familiar with that at all?
Well, I mean, are you talking about something similar to FaceTime?
That'd be that on the iPad. Go ahead.
Apples don't have, I mean, Androids don't have FaceTime, so.
No.
No, we do have Duo, which does the same job.
But you can still set it up so you can see the mode and in selfie mode, you can see what you're seeing at the same time you're trying to take the picture, so you can get that, I think, on your screen.
I did not know that Android did that.
So it was a mode on here I had saw, but I don't think I've used it very much. So thank you.
And
yeah, it's those things you practice that yeah.
Androids can participate in FaceTime now.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh,
But they have to be invited.
Something new. The world is coming together, so to speak. The golden ratio is proportion that is believed to be aesthetically pleasing. Mathematically, it's 1.618.
Okay.
Sounds familiar, but it's been years since I've had to look at that.
Okay. Della, you have a question?
Yes, I usually use my camera, take picture of birds. With the camera, you can set the speed very fast. I can use 10,000 per second, so I can capture. For example, if I take picture of a hummingbird, I can frozen the action, nice and clear. And I wonder if I use my smartphone to take picture of bird, what's the fastest speed for this smartphone? I have a Samsung Android phone. What's the fastest speed, the shutter speed?
That's a great question. My first attempt to answer it would be to look at Google and see what Google has to say about it, because I really don't know the answer. Does anybody with us, because we got a nice group of people, does anybody have an answer for Della?
I'm looking.
Yeah, when I'm not the speaker, I do those lookings too, but trying to avoid that right now. But yeah, that's what I would do is I'd do a search. I'd actually, Della, I would search for my particular phone with a Google search. It doesn't have to be Google, but the point of just doing an internet search for it with your phone and just what you really want, the shots per second or per minute.
Try out, I guess. Thank you.
Mine shows 30. Does that ring a bell to anyone?
It sounds familiar to me, Bill, but I'm not sure.
That's on the high end. On the low end is 1/12,000.
That's a shutter speed.
The faster the shutter speed, the better.
Right.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that.
Is 1/12,000 the fastest or the slowest?
It's the fastest.
That's the fastest on that end, and the high end is 30.
You want a fast shutter speed because birds are moving so fast, so the faster shutter speed will freeze the action.
Right.
And this is on an S22 Plus.
I'm a camera person. I'm not a real camera person.
We're talking real cameras here, people.
Yep.
We appreciate your comments.
Just say old school.
No, I'm high tech.
Oh,
I'm a high tech camera person. I just don't use phones for taking pictures, but whatever.
Yeah, Randy was too.
I tried to be.
He wouldn't have been cut dead using a phone.
And to add to that, you have to go to the pro settings to see that on your phone.
And that is an Android phone.
That's an Android phone.
There are apps available for the iPhone, and I believe maybe the Android phones would allow you to go and control your shutter speeds. They just take control of the camera. But here again, those are professional type moves.
Yeah, there's a lot of apps out there. Yeah, I was going to mention that, JJ. I'm glad you did.
Yeah,
a lot of apps that you can replace your standard app that came with your phone. Now, they may work better. In some cases, they may work worse.
I know on my OnePlus, it says to take pictures of a bird, set the shutter speed at 1/1000th.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
And
know
as
it
Bill
does
says, he's got 1/1200, so that's fast, a little faster.
A little bit faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have another question.
Shelley, Eric, go ahead.
Yep.
Okay, when I accidentally pressed my shutter too long, it took like, I think 20 or 30 pictures.
Mhm.
That's the burst mode.
That's the burst mode. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
We'll
a
do
way,
that.
is there a place to set it for less?
If you're holding the shutter down, it's going to continue to take the pictures. In my experience, from what I've seen. The quicker you pick up your finger. Now, on my phone, I also have the ability to flick the shutter button, and I automatically get 4 shots by flicking the shutter button. But that's all I'm aware of. Ray, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think to your point there, Bob, it's how long you're keeping your finger on the button is going to dictate for the most part. I mean, the burst shots that you get, or the number, I should say.
The thing is, I don't perceive that I'm holding my finger down. I feel I'm just going like that, and
oh no, understand. I
Sounds like your
understand.
phone's too picky, too sensitive.
It's sensitive.
but delete works wonderfully.
You just got to be fast. You just got to be faster.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
That's what happens when you're old, though. Hey, Di, your question. And she's got an iPhone. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but you're kind of.
Hello.
Yeah.
Unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah. You have to look at the ceiling.
She's in her car.
I had to leave for a little.
We lost her.
Oh, we lost her. She was in her car. She was in the Keys yesterday, so she should be home today.
Oh, okay.
Amazing what I know about people.
Also said she was muted, yet we could still hear. So there was a problem that way too. We'll wait for her to come back. Other people.
We need questions. We need comments.
I have one more question.
Go for it.
What does contrast mean? When I see brightness, when I see contrast, I don't understand what that words mean. And I go back and forth on my phone and on the television, and I don't quite understand what I'm doing, what that really means.
Not an expert in that myself. I know there is a difference for sure. I'm almost going to ask JJ if he wants to jump in, being the professional photographer there, because it seems like that's the right way to answer that.
Contrast is usually defined as the act of contrasting, the state of being contrasted. For more, ask them to give you more definitions for contrast. Did that answer your question?
I hope so.
Thanks for the feedback.
So much for the expert.
I know. Contrast basically here is basically used in editing more than anything else. And it's just different between your grays and your blacks and your colors.
If you use your editing program, try contrast.
Yeah.
And even you can do that, in PowerPoint when you're working with a graphic or a picture, and you can go through and you could see, it adds yellow, it adds this, it dulls it down. And then do it with the other one and see what you like best. It's all in the eye of the beholder, and your eye is going to be totally different than the other beholder. They're going to think something totally different.
If you use contrast, it'll find out what is the brightest pixel in the image and what is the darkest pixel in the image, and then it'll spread all the other pixels out in between. To those 2 points.
Yep. People will send me when I ask for a picture of them to use wherever, and 9 times out of 10 I use contrast to brighten them up because it looks good, but you really, if somebody prints it out, it's going to be a blob. And again, it's all in your eyeball.
Contrast is looking at, and he just said it, the difference between two colors and the light and making that comparison as far as how it looks.
Yeah, it's between the lights and the darks, bringing them up to equal.
Right. Di, you're on. Maybe she can't. Oops. Okay, Bernard, it's your turn. Unmute yourself, please.
Could anybody recommend a good editing program for my laptop?
Depending on how much you want to spend.
Photo Gallery 2012 Live Essentials.
There are some free ones out there if you want to get in some low end editing, Photoshop elements. If you want to get into a little bit more, go to Photoshop Lightroom and then Photoshop Lightroom. And then if you want to do manipulation, Photoshop itself.
And those are all extremely difficult to learn. Does anybody have a really nifty, free editing program that you use that you think is the greatest thing that came down the pike?
People have been talking about GLIMP for years.
Yep.
I like to use Faststone for the simple stuff that I want to do.
Yeah,
it's good.
If John Metcalf is still here, that's what he uses. He also uses Corel's Paint Shop Pro. He has been using it forever and a day.
Yeah, Paint Shop Pro. The Paint Shop Pro been around since the Noah's Ark.
Yeah, it is true. Joanne, what did you say?
Snapseed.
Snapseed, absolutely.
Perfect.
We had Chris Gould from Geeks on Tour show us that. And when I got a hold of my youngest daughter, who's the photographer on her family, and her family, mother, I already use an app just like that for my iPhone, because Snapseed is for, I believe, Android phones. And so she said, so there, okay. And I said, fine, thank you much. Just wanted to make sure that you were using something good. And truly, anybody can use that. It is so easy. The head dummy can use it. What can I tell you? Bob Baxter, you're on.
So Snapseed will work on Android, iPhones, and iPads.
Yes.
It will not work on straight Windows. It will not work on a big Mac.
That's right.
There are packages you can put on to emulate an Android on a PC and run Snapseed. And the price is great.
Yes,
Free.
perfect. And remember, just give it a try. If you find one that costs money, make sure that you have a free trial and you can run it through. And my criteria is that I can understand how to use it natively. And if I can't, I just move on to something else that I can.
Good policy.
Yep, thank you so much. And I have a comment from back in the day. The Southwest Technology Conference in San Diego, we started the digital photo contest, and then APCUG started theirs a few years later. And one year, the best of show, so to speak, voted on by all of the attendees, was created with a Samsung phone. And he said he bought, and this was literally back in the day when phones just, started doing this. And he said, I bought the phone, I researched it and got the phone that had the best camera. And I said, don't you dare tell anybody that you used a camera to get the winning photo. I said, all these people with their professional lenses will absolutely come unglued. So we kept that a deep, dark secret for a few years. And then over time, every single photo that was entered, and we'd get, well over 100, they were all taken with phones.
I belong to a local camera club, and we have competition 4 times a year. And lately, there have been a few people entering into the contest with pictures from their cameras. And they've been getting decent scores, not high scores, but some decent scores.
Mhm.
How about check, see if Shelley's back with us because she never got to ask her question.
That was, yeah, that was Diane, who's in her car.
Well, I thought Shelley was too, because she was the one showing the roof.
Oh, she's asked a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think Di's
Diane's iPhone's up.
yeah, but I don't see her.
So
Okay, do we have any more
right.
questions? Any more comments? Melton, do you have anything else to share?
Thanks for checking on me, Judy.
Hey.
But no, you know, the thing that keeps going through my mind is several people have asked questions about taking pictures of birds. And I really feel like that one person that shared taking pictures of hummingbirds, you need an actual camera where you can adjust the lens speed for that sort of stuff. I mean, I consider the cameras in the phones as something you carry in your pocket and you have it all the time. That's, to me, that's different than really taking pictures.
And are you using an iPhone or an Android?
I'm using an Android.
Thank you. Okay, Shelley, you're back on again. Unmute your, thank you.
I have, when I was looking at my settings today, I found one that said motion setting on, off, or whatever. Is that something that would help bird wings, or, you know, what on earth would that be for? Would that clear up some of the bird wings moving?
I think motion settings is more for your hand moving when you're taking the picture.
Yeah. It's like a stabilizer.
It's a stabilizer, yes.
But there is a stabilizer setting separately, which of course I have on.
What kind of phone?
Android.
Which one, Shelley?
I have a Google 4.
Pixel?
You have a Pixel.
Yeah, Pixel, yeah.
Judy, you're our Pixel expert.
Yeah, I don't take pictures.
I don't have an answer on the Android side. I'm sorry. I kind of looking it up on my phone and nothing there.
It says you can use gestures to do actions quickly with your phone without unlocking the screen. That's from our Google friend.
Yeah.
I think Dave probably said it best. I mean, if you're really looking at taking good pictures of birds, you probably want a camera that's going to be able to handle that movement well.
Except I don't want something that weighs as much or have to handle extra. It's much easier to take my phone out of my pocket.
I understand.
That's for sure.
Hope for the best, Shelley. Hope for the best.
That's all we do when we take pictures.
I'm your assistant, here to help you throughout your day. Sorry, I don't understand.
Huh.
Oh, I have a super steady on my Android.
Wow.
Could I ask JJ Johnson a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Have you ever used a shift tilt lens?
Yeah, several years ago.
Yeah. That was one thing that I noticed made things a lot better in digital. That you
Yes.
didn't have to use a shift tilt lens to take pictures of buildings properly.
It gives you a different perspective of taking pictures, yes.
Yeah, literally, yeah.
And what kind of camera do you use, Steve?
I was using a Canon.
Yeah, I'm all Nikon.
I've forgotten what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, Randy was a Canon fiend. Here, brightness refers to the overall lightness or darkness of the image. Use the brightness slider to adjust your image's luminosity level. Contrast is the difference in brightness between objects or regions. Use the contrast slide to adjust the relative levels of dark and light areas in your image. Courtesy of Google, my friend, but not John.
Then you have a white setting, you have a white setting, you have a black setting to bring out the blacks and the whites and all kind of weird stuff. But yeah, it's all it's a photo editing.
Yeah, the problem with playing with the brightness is though that if you push it too far, you're gonna blow out the high end.
Right.
You blow out the highlights.
If you adjust the gamma, you can make the picture brighter without blowing out the things that are already bright.
Cool. John.
Okay, I'm taking a look at the Android. This is a Samsung 20, and there's a pro setting, and I heard somebody mention that. When I go to the pro setting, I have a number of options that goes across the screen, and one of them is speed. And I have a dial that I can go anywhere from 30 to 1/12,000.
Wow.
That's pretty good. The iPhone goes up to 1/8,000th.
Yeah, and this one's
That's-
12 thousandths.
That's correct, John. That's what I was trying to explain.
Yeah.
Mine's
And,
not a dial, it's a slider, but yes.
Yeah, it's a slider. And another thing, we're talking earlier about using the thirds to keep things straight. When I go to Pro, I have a bar that tilts as I move my hand, so I know exactly when the camera is straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just so your horizons are level, depending if you want to do that. And when you take a picture, your horizon is not sliding off to the left or right. I hate when I take a picture of the ocean starts flowing off to the right.
Yep. Yeah, that's the degrees of tilt, John, is what you're talking about. It's got a little, it's got a 0 or a 1, or it's got a level on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, it also has all those squares. I tried to learn to use the real camera JJ, and it was just I couldn't keep it up in my head. My wife took better pictures of just a snap and click and snap. But also the Pro one has it where you add all those little focus points. So I've got about 25 different focus points, I guess, as I move around.
Yeah. The thing about the grids here again is that too many people take pictures of people in the middle of the camera, and that's not really appealing. So therefore, you want to put them in one of the little squares to the left or the right or whatever.
Yeah.
So offset them to the left or the right. And people don't understand that. You just see too many pictures of people in the middle instead of being off to the left or to the right, they're right in the middle of the camera like I'm doing right now.
Well, that's what a lot of us heard in the beginning, get the camera, center it, take the picture.
Yep.
You get the camera focused and then you tilt it, you move it to the left or right, get the person just a little off center, depending how the camera or the phone focuses.
I got a question. You were mentioning pro settings, John.
Yeah.
What maybe JJ knows, but what my ISO goes up to 3200. When would I use that?
If you're at a racetrack or, like I said, photographing kids on skating or something like that, fast-moving objects, or hummingbirds, for example.
Okay. A soccer game or whatever. Somebody kicking a ball, throwing a ball, a pitcher.
Because if you don't have a high setting, then all you're gonna get is a blur.
So ISO is the shutter speed and not the, remember the speed of the film used to be really low, 300, and then you got up to 800, and it got grainier. So ISO 3200 has nothing to do with film speed.
It actually has to do with the brightness and darkness. If you're taking pictures at night with the stars, you want the highest ISO you can get, even though you're going to take a longer shutter speed.
ISO is the sensitivity of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not shutter speed then, it's
to do with the brightness.
Yeah, it's just
take a picture at night, it's going to be a lot darker, so you want to use a higher ISO. The darker.
It's more like the sensitivity. It's the sensitivity of the sensor within the camera or the phone.
That's right.
Very, very good. Thank you both.
Yeah, ISO is film speed rather than camera speed.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Parker, say the word again with 3 letters. How do you say that word? It's ISO. It is not ISO. I learned that when I was working with a guy from the Potomac area group in Virginia, And he's been, teaching photography for 16,000 years. And he says, everybody pronounces it ISO, EYESO, and it's actually ISO.
What does it stand for?
So
International Standards Organization, I think.
Yep. So you never know when you're going to learn something, and I thank him very much for that. And I thought if I ever use that word, I'll use it correctly. Anyway,
but Judy, it's funny because that ISO doesn't really relate to the computer ISO that you make for a bootable disk. They're two different things, but
right.
It's International Standards Organization.
Any other questions or comments?
Just quickly, a few minutes ago, my phone was talking to me. You were talking about earlier using Smile, and Smile's available on the iPhone. If you install the Google Assistant or the Assistant on your iPhone, then you have your iPhone to Smile and take your picture.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so cute and clever. It doesn't do much. John, unmute yourself, kiddo.
All right. I just want to say I've enjoyed this very much and I appreciate it. And I've picked up a lot of good pointers. And I've got an old Android that serves me pretty good.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The question is, which camera takes the best photos?
Is it a real one?
Is it a pixel?
A real one.
Is it a pixel?
It's the one that's in your hand.
No matter the age.
Good answer, John.
Oh, there's John Smarty Pants there showing us what he had. Very good. Carl.
Okay, I'm in the pro mode and there's a thing called WB, like Webster Brown.
White balance.
What does it stand for?
White balance.
White balance.
Oh, okay, because it's like 40,000 or whatever. So it's actually measuring instantaneous white balance. What I remember white balance was critical in taking pictures, but why would I have this? It's a variable setting. As I move around, of course, it changes depending on the lighting, but when do I care about that?
Anybody have an answer?
It's a hard thing to set, basically, and most phones and cameras just have it automatically set. And it's basically here again, it changes the sensitivity of your sensor as to how much light is available.
So it's just a reference of, and the camera's taking that into account is what I hear.
Right. Yes.
Very good. Thank you.
I think if you have an auto mode, you're best off letting the camera decide what to do because you don't have time when you're taking pictures to try and figure all that stuff out manually.
The only time I set white balance is I'm in complete control of the lighting around me. Like if I'm in a studio setting,
right,
and I know the colors of the light that I have around me, the Kelvin values, and then I will set the white balance to whatever that is. Other than that, if you're outside and your conditions are changing, automatic is the best bet.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like the histogram. It's telling you what the background composition is, but you don't really do anything with it.
The histograms are telling you the whites, the dark areas and stuff like that of your photo.
Right.
Yeah.
Photo Gallery has a histogram. Any more questions? Any more comments?
Fun meeting, guys. Thank you.
I have an assignment for everybody. Got your listening ears on?
Time to go.
Attention.
Mute everybody.
Hey, I know where you live, Milton. Forget it. Anyway, I would like you, if you have a favorite picture that you have taken with your phone or your tablet, please send it to me. And you give it a name. I always appreciate names. And I'll put it all together and send it out to everybody so they can see what everybody else is doing and what makes them smile. And the photo has to make you smile. And if you use an app like Snapseed, or I won't bother putting Photo Gallery in, okay, from 2012, but let us know what app you are using, either that you're using for editing instead of your phone, or you're using it on your phone like Snapseed, or something else that you have found that has been invaluable for you in using your smartphone or your tablet for taking pictures. And let's just share a whole bunch of stuff. And this year we are thinking of not having our regular contests, but having a different kind of competition. And if we go with it, then the digital photography contest will be in 2023. So be prepared for that. And remember, we don't want them overly mucked with, although there is usually a category for those who really like to muck around with their photos and do all kinds of strange things. Grace.
How do you spell Snapseed? I don't know the products.
Grace, I will send you the video of when the Geeks on Tour showed it at one of our Wednesday workshops. She'll show you exactly how it works.
Thank you.
Works pretty good.
So if there are no more questions, no more comments, we say thank you to everybody who participated, especially Ray and Bob, who put this all together. And the reason it's here is I attended one of their meetings and this is what they did. So you know, so beware of me when I attend your meetings. There is no telling what I might be asked to do. Joanne.
What is the best size of picture to send in, let's say, email or computer, your computer screen? Like if you send a small one, can you actually blow it up on the other end? No.
It depends on how much you can send with your particular email program.
Right.
Literally.
They have like 5 megabyte.
Yeah, if you use Gmail, you can send a whole bunch.
Okay.
And if your photos are too much, they will say, I'm sorry, we can't do that for you, but here's a link where the person that you are sending this email to with too many photos can click on and download and look at them.
What about zip programs?
What
Are there any free zip program?
Yeah, one comes with Windows.
What about a free one?
7-zip.
Open source. No.
7-zip.
7-zip.
7-zip. Okay, thank you.
I think that ones like the cloud things were like OneDrive will do the same thing by sharing a group of photos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can share the group of photos from your Google Drive. Also, if you have a Gmail account. Della, question.
Judy, I like to have the information of Snapseeds also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gotcha on my list. All righty, John, I think it is your time to tap dance this off.
My time. Yep. Wow. That's it for our workshop for this Wednesday. That's it for the Wednesdays in this month.